West Africa's main regional bloc, ECOWAS, has agreed to close its borders with Mali and impose sweeping economic sanctions. That's in response to Mali's military rulers delaying the elections meant to return the country to civilian rule. The announcement from ECOWAS came after a summit in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. For more, we can speak to our regional correspondent, Hannane Ferdjani. Hannane, what more can you tell us about these measures that were just announced against Mali?
Well, what I can tell you is that there were expected to be additional sanctions imposed on Mali. We knew that the initial sanctions that have been imposed thus far will be upheld, but I guess the plethora of new sanctions and new measures that have been announced are quite the sanctions. I will just go through them. As you mentioned, there will be a closure of the borders between Mali and the rest of the region. That is the ECOWAS, effective immediately. That is for all the measures that I'm about to spell out. All of them will be implemented effective immediately. There's also mention of a withdrawal of all ambassadors of ECOWAS from Mali that will be sent back home. The suspension of all commercial transactions between Mali and the rest of the region, with the exception of medical goods, goods that will help with the control of the sanitary crisis and basic necessities. Also, the freeze of assets, Malian assets, with the West African Central Bank, and another mechanism which is not used very often. African Union forces, once the African Union agrees to that, will be able to send their forces as far as 50 kilometers inside Malian turf. That is, if the country doesn't comply with what is asked from them. And finally, financial aids from the region, from the ECOWAS, will be cut off for Mali. So quite a bit of sanctions, quite a few sanctions that are being posed today. And of course, what is said is that this will all happen today, all happen as of now. So I guess there are some things that weren't necessarily expected by observers.
And Hannane, you said it is a long list of measures. Are they likely to have an effect on Mali's military leaders?
Well, I think that's a little early to say whether or not they will have an effect on what member states want to put pressure on, which is the chronogram for this transition, for this military transition. They want an election, a free and fair election, as early as possible, and the junta has mentioned 5 years, 4 years before they can hold election. And so they're hoping that by suffocating, stifling the economy, that they will have to cave. And they've definitely used all their cards so that they would push the junta in that direction. Now, I think that the mere fact that there have been some back and forths between Malian envoys and ECOWAS member states in the last few days showed that there was a sort of a wish from the Malian side, from Assimi Goïta's transitional government, to avoid such sanctions, but they haven't met what ECOWAS member states was expecting of them. So I guess we have to wait and see whether or not this will make a difference. However, and ECOWAS member states have been very adamant on that, the sanctions will not be lifted until the junta decides to really comply with what their initial commitment was, which is to hold elections as early as possible.
All right, Hannane Ferdjani reporting from Accra. Thank you very much on that update from ECOWAS.